Namaste. This is Varma here. Recently, I heard a lecture on Manodharmam by one of the senior musicians, and he was analyzing the word Manodharmam, where one vital word is Dharmam. Dharmam is righteousness, to do the right thing. So in the name of Manodharmam, if we improvise and just we sing whatever comes to mind without a question of aesthetics or grammar or anything, then that is not Dharmam. That was what he was saying. It is very true. And then I was thinking of various dharmams in our system of music. When we look at great works by painters or writers, especially from several centuries ago, we feel they are fortunate because if we read a work by Kalidasa or Shakespeare or anybody, what they have written remains, and we don't need a third person to tell us or read it out to us. Same with a painting. If there's a beautiful painting, even if it is 300 years old, it will remain and we can see that. But unfortunately, with music compositions, it's a totally different situation. Because audio recording, in superior quality audio recording started quite recently, while many of our great masters like Saint Tyagaraja or Muthuswami Dikshitar or Shyama Shastri, Maharaja Swadhitirunal, Patnam Subramaniya, Mutaya Bhagavatar, you name it, just goes on and on. They all lived long before audio recording came into being. So they have left us with this body of works. With people like Saint Tyagaraja, he had a very strong Shishya Parampara or lineage of disciples, many of whom continued to teach his compositions to their disciples and their disciples and their disciples, with the result that whether we are born in Kerala or Karnataka or Tamil Nadu or Andhra Pradesh or even in Bombay or Delhi, if we are students of South Indian classical music, Tyagaraja compositions would feature very prominently in our menu. One reason, apart from the obvious merit of the compositions, is the richness of his Shishya Parampara or lineage of disciples. With Muthuswami Dikshitar, though many compositions are very popular, people have researched and found that some tunes have changed. And now they are trying to bring back what they feel is the original tune. That is another story. With Maharaja Swadhitirunal, he had a very small lifespan and did not have a very strong Shishya Parampara because he was a ruling king. So there's a mix of compositions where the original tunes are available. Some have been tuned afresh, some have been modified. Nobody really knows which is the original, which is the modified like. Then we come to Purandaradasa, Annamacharya, Bhadrachala Ramadasa, Sadasiva Brahmendra, Narayana Tirthar, Jayadeva. It goes on and on, where we have the lyrics, but nobody is too sure about the original ragas or tunes. In this situation, just like I first mentioned about compositions, suppose we sing Tyagaraja Kriti, he has composed it in a certain way 200 years ago or 250 years ago. But suppose I sing that song badly, a person who hears that now will just hear the song and feel, oh, this is not nice. So Tyagaraja will get a share of the bad name because of a current singer singing it wrongly. So we could say that these compositions by the great masters from the past are at the mercy of the current singers, whoever sings them. So that is as far as songs where the lyrics and melody are available. We call these people Vakgeyakaras because Vak means the literature and Geya is the music. So for them, we presume that at the same time the lyrics and music came burst forth from them at this simultaneously. But it is even a greater responsibility when we have just the lyrics and without the melody. Then what do? So then I remembered the Manodharmam aspect. The same lyrics, if tuned aptly and aesthetically, can shine like jewels. And the same lyrics, if given a tune which is not suitable, it would be a gross injustice to the spirit of the composer. I was privileged to spend more than 18 years with one of the legendary musicians of all time, Dr. Mangalampalli Balamuralikrishna sir. Apart from being a phenomenal performer, he was a great composer also, who has, to his own credit, around 300 compositions. But being a composer, he had the utmost respect for what we call the Kavi Hrudayam, the poetic heart of other composers when he set to tune their lyrics. Balamurali sir has tuned, in fact, his lifespan as well as his contribution is so vast that I don't think anybody has actually tabulated or enumerated the number of compositions he has tuned by other people. So I used to be fascinated more than with his voice, more than with his range, with his speed, with his mathematical complexity, how he used to get the pulse of the audience. More than all of that, I used to be fascinated with his mind as a composer, be it his own compositions or him in his role as someone who tuned the lyrics of other people. So I used to spend a lot of time asking him, sir, how do you tune? And I was fortunate enough to witness him setting to tune several compositions in my presence, mostly of Kaivara Amara Narayana. I was there with him when that happened. He says that he owes it to the compositional gene that he inherited from his grandfather. His mother's father, he was called Ranga Sharma, who went to Kashi, Prayagraj, and spent many years there, which earned him the name Prayaga Rangadasa. So Prayaga Rangadasa had composed hundreds of songs probably, many of which continue to be sung in the Raja Mahendravaram, Rajmadri area in Andhra Pradesh by bhajana mandalis with absolutely no awareness that the composer is Rangadasa. A few have come to us through Balamuralikrishna sir. A few I found on YouTube quite recently. In Prayaga Rangadasa, the specialty is that he has composed several songs in actual ragas, and he has composed several songs with no raga at all, just folk type devotional songs. But Balamuralikrishna sir, in his personal private conversations with me, he has spoken very highly about Prayaga Rangadasa, but I haven't found a big record of Prayaga Rangadasa by himself or as spoken by Balamurali sir in the public domain. So I will just give you one-line samples of what Prayaga Rangadasa sounds like, because it is like the seed from which the big banyan tree of Balamuralikrishna's compositional abilities came. I am a Malayali speaker from Kerala, but I find that Prayaga Rangadasa's compositions, many of which are in Telugu, if I sing these in Kerala, in Tamil Nadu, in Bombay, outside India, in Karnataka, anywhere in the world, even in front of an audience which need not be familiar with South Indian classical music, the moment I sing a Prayaga Rangadasa composition, I find people smiling and just the audience becoming bright. Normally when we sing a Tillana, for example, when energy comes, this is not the energy, but the sweetness is so obvious that it crosses the language barrier and people just feel happy. Some people have that magic touch. So I'll just give you small one-line samples of Prayaga Rangadasa. Prayaga Rangadasa hailed from this tiny village in Andhra Pradesh called Gudimellanka. If we go there, we find Gudimellanka, then there's a village called Shankaraguptam. That is where Balamuralikrishna sir was born. Then there is a temple at a village called Kadali. Then there's a very famous Narasimha temple at a place called Antarvedi, where the Godavari river meets the ocean. It's very, very beautiful. All these four places are like very, very, very close to each other. So Rangadasa, though he went to Prayagraj, his heart was always in Gudimallanka. So in many of his compositions, his family temple, it's a beautiful small Venugopala temple. So references to the Venugopala temple keep popping up in his compositions. I'll sing again, as I said, this is what I plan to do is to give you a small insight into lyrics by other composers set to tune by Dr. Balamuralikrishna sir. It's not about Prayagaranga, but since this is the origin, the root of the whole thing, I thought it is right that I mention him and highlight him also a little bit. So in Kadali, there is a Kapoteswara temple, Lord Shiva temple. I don't want to talk about the whole story, which is there on YouTube anyway. There is a Bala Tripura Sundari, who is one of the Shakti Peethams established by Adi Shankara. There are two compositions. One is a raga based composition, one is not a raga based composition. The non raga based composition on Bala Tripura Sundari of Kadali, which is 5 kilometers away from Gudimallanka, goes like this. Bala Tripura Sundari gai konu maharati, Bala Tripura Sundari gai konu maharati, Ganalo lajala mela dari jupuma, Ganalo lajala mela dari jupuma, Sundarangi andaruni satiraru. Look at the tune. Sundarangi andaruni satiraru raru magarigama. It is such a sweet tune and it doesn't follow any raga. Sandehamunu andamuga tirpu mantini, Vasikekkiyunna danavanu sunammiti, Rasiga siri sampadalichi brovu mantini, and so on and so on. It mentions the Devi at Kadali, and of course his signature Rangadasa comes. Sthiramuga Sri Kadaliyandu velasitivamma, Dharanilo Sri Rangadasuni dayanu chuduma. Like that. So this has captured the hearts of so many people, and I keep getting messages asking, sir, what ragam is Baladeva? It has no ragam. Same principle Balamurali sir followed when he tuned many compositions. I'll give you examples also, where he doesn't take the lyrics of somebody and says, okay, I'm going to tune this in Kalyani Ragam, Aditala. No. He will just go through the lyrics and connect with the spirit of the composer. And then some tune, he always used to say, it comes. So, it would come. Just, he says it's not him, it is the spirit of the composer who is telling him, see, you sing it like this. And it would be just the tune for the lyrics. That's all. So, now this was a Prayagaranga composition without any ragam. But same Bala Tripura Sundari, he made another song in Kedaragola. I am not going to sing the whole song and change the focus to Prayagaranga. But see the sweetness there also. Bala Tripura Sundari Puja Samayamu Vela Juta Murare. This so beautiful. It's dripping with Kedaragola. So this is one non-raga composition, one raga composition by Prayagaranga. Another example is in Kuntala Virali. Sri Rama Nama Mantra, Sri Rama Nama Mantra Patanamu Seyave Manasa, Sri Rama Nama Mantra Patanamu Seyave Manasa, Khoranthakara Duritamulanu Gurchane Manasa, Sri Rama Nama. Immediately, I have taught this to small children. and I sing Sri Rama Nama. Nobody will sit and sing Sri Rama. Automatically Sri Rama Nama. A smile would come and the body would move also. Same with Bala Tripura Sundari. Immediately we feel like smiling. It's not like a comedy song. We just feel happy. So that is one example. See, listen to this. Same gentleman, he made a song in Shankarabaranam. We all know Shankarabaranam. But what a sweet picture of Shankarabaranam he gives. It is more the tune for the lyrics, that's all. And one important thing with Rangadasa is that all the songs which are available, whatever I'm singing now, they are his original tunes, not tuned by anybody else. So he was a Vagyakara where Vak and Gaya came together. So look at the Shankarabaranam. Ramanamamrutamu manasa paname pudu cheyuma Devudokadeyanu chumadilo telisi dhyanamu cheyuma. That's all. So then each charanam pattu pitambaramu Dasaratha patti karpana cheyuma Pattu vadalakara manamamu gattiga talapoyuma Pamagama. Stops like that. So that is another sweet composition by him. Then here is another one which really doesn't have any raga. Deva Deva Brovarava Mahanubhava Deva Deva Brovarava. There's a small secret I'll share with you. There is a Bhadrachala Ramadasa composition which many people sing in Kamas. Rama Jogi Mandu Konare. So that composition Balamurali sir has actually quietly lifted the Deva Deva tune and put it for Rama Jogi. So Rama Jogi Mandu Konare O Janular. Like that he's sung, which is small secret. I mean, if we can steal, it's better to steal from our own grandfather, no? So that is one. Another one, so sweet. Krishnamma Gopala Bala Krishnamma Govinda Bala Krishnamma Gopala Bala Krishnamma Nanda Kumara Krishnamma Gopala Bala Krishnamma Navanita Chora Krishnamma Gopala Bala Krishnamma Mandaradhara Krishnamma Mani Malahara Krishnamma Gopala Bala Krishnamma Gopala Bala Krishnamma Lala posina chinna baluda ninnu oyyalalola nunchi jola padedarara Krishnamma. Like that. And many charanams which go like that. So that also does not have any raga. Then when he was in Kashi, the partner of Kashi Vishweshwara, Kashi Visalakshi, he made a beautiful harati with no ragam again, which we can kind of call it Pahadi if we want. Mangalambe Shampurani Mangalambe Shampurani Maniniyo Puvoni Mangalambe Shampurani Maniniyo Puvoni Brunga Kuntala Venivamma Puttadi Bangaru Bomma Ninne Namiyunti Namani Dukaruna Nosagavamma. Like that. So that is another of his compositions. Then there is one describing the birth of Lord Sri Rama. Ramudu Bhavinchenadu Rakhukulam Buna. Normally in a raga like Chanchuriti, na 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 ra ra. So na na na, that we kind of keep it like the Antaragandharam in Ananda Bhairavi as the punchline for the end. But here the beginning itself, Ramudu bhavinchi chi chi, the small ga comes immediately. Rakukulam buna Tamasuladnu dunimidi vija, Tamasuladnu dunimidi vija, Stomambula kshemamu kaiko bali kausalyaku Sri Ramudu. So look at the Sahityam, Komali Kausalyaku. So, and look at the tune, how apt it is. Tamasuladu dunimidi vija, Stomambula kshemamu kaiko bali kausalyaku Sri. So immediately we will feel like smiling. No, Kausalya comes in with baby Sri Rama. So that is then another one again which Balamurali sir quietly took for one of his tunes. He has sung a Yadugala Kamboji, which is a kind of Yadugala Kamboji, Deshakshi Kamboji type mix. Ikshwaku kula tilaka ikanaina, like that. There's a Bhadrachal Ramada. So that is again taken from a Prayagaranga composition, which goes Shankara ni divya charana kamalamu, like that. That is in Yadugala Kamboji. Yeah, then there's another one in Kapi, which is again very, very sweet. It was composed about for Balamuralikrishna sir's mother by the mother's father. Emeo chitti edavage rotti mukavirachi petti ninu padudu jogotti emeo chitti, like that. So I think I'll stop talking about Prayagaranga because it's very addictive both to talk about, to listen. But I just want to bring your attention to how charming, how sweet, how much loveliness there is in all these compositions by Prayagaranga, whom Balamuralikrishna sir used to tell me in private that he is the reason I get my compositional seed from him. Now you have a small idea about the secret source, no, Balamurali sir's compositional gene. Since our boss Hebbar ji is in Udupi, I'll start with a composition by Sangeeta Pitamaha Sri Purandara Dasa, which puts Lord Sri Krishna to sleep. I've heard that this is sung in Udupi temple every day. This Balamurali sir tuned this in Ananda Bhairavi, again using one Antaragandharam which is taken from Prayagaranga Das. I have to by force pull myself away from Prayagaranga Das, otherwise I'll go on talking about him. So see the tune. Just imagine a small baby sleeping in your lap, and he says that is the tune. It is not Ananda Bhairavi, oh Ananda Bhairavi, no. It is just the tune for the extraordinarily tender, loving and sweet lyrics. Again, I won't elaborate on the song, but just give you a sample. Jo jo Yashodaya Nanda Mukundane, Jo jo Yashodaya Nanda Mukundane, Jo jo Kamsa Kuthari, Jo jo Munigala Hridaya Mandira, Jo jo Lakumiya Ramana, Jo jo Lakumiya Ramana, Jo jo lakumiya ramana, jo jo. See that it's so sweet. Hokkala huvina tavare gannina ikkida makara kundalada ಜಕರಿಸುವ ಕದಪಿನ ಸುಳಿ ಗುರುಳಿನ ಚಿಕ್ಕಬಾಯಿ ಮುದ್ದು ಮೊಗದ ಸೊಕ್ಕಿದ ಮದ ಕರಿಯಂತತಿ ನೊಸಲಲಿ ಇಟ್ಟಿದ್ದ ಕಸ್ತೂರಿ ತಿಲಕ ರಕ್ಕಸರದ ದಳ್ಳನ ಮುರವೈರಿಯ ಮಕ್ಕಳ ಮಾಣಿಕ್ಯ ಜೋ 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 ಯಶೋದಯ ನಂದ ಮುಕುಂದನೇ ಜೋ ಜೋ ಕಂಸ ಕುಠಾರಿ ಜೋ ಜೋ ಮುನಿಗಳ ಹೃದಯ ಮಂದಿರ ಜೋ ಜೋ ಲಕುಮಿಯ. Of course you can sing it. ಜೋ ಜೋ ಲಕುಮಿಯ ರಮಣ. That tempo also. Again, he was a very great exponent of Swaraksharams. Even in his own composition, just like Dikshite, it's full studded with Swaraksharams. So here also, Nidi Tolgala Pasari Sutali. So Pasari. So I have never heard lower pa Pasari in Ananda Bhairavi. But when we sing the whole composition, it just blends in seamlessly with the spirit of the song. This is one example. Then we take a relatively popular composition, Naneke Badavanu. How can I be a beggar? Naneke Paradesi. How can I be an outsider? Srinidhe Hari, the Vishnu, Mahavishnu, who is blessed with the treasure of Lakshmi Devi, Sri Nidhe Hari Enage Neeniruva Tanaka. So for me, as long as you are there, how can I be a beggar? How can I be a outsider? So this composition, many versions we hear, they cut the Pallavi into two and call it Naneke Badavanu Naneke Paradesi. Full stop. That is Pallavi. Srinidhe Hari Enage Neeniruva Tanaka. That is the Anupallavi, which has absolutely no meaning. Because together only it makes sense. How can I be a beggar? How can I be an outsider? As long as you are there with me. So Balamuralikrishna sir, he has sung it in a very beautiful way, bringing out the meaning very beautifully. It is in Bihag and it is in Khanda Chapu Talam, just like the normal version. Naneke badavanu, naneke paradesi, Srinidhe Hari Yenage Neeniruva Tanaka, Naneke Badavanu. ಪುಟ್ಟಿಸಿದ ತಾಯ್ ತಂದೆ ಇಷ್ಟ ಮಿತ್ರನು ನೀನೆ, ಅಷ್ಟ ಬಂಧುವು ಸರ್ವ ಬಳಗ ನೀನೆ, ಪೆಟ್ಟಿಗೆಯೊಳಗಿನ ಸರ್ವಾಭರಣ ನೀನೆ, ಶ್ರೇಷ್ಠ ಮೂರುತಿ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ನೀನಿರುವ ತನಕ Naneke Badavanu. So the more charanams are there, and it brings out the spirit of the lyrics. Then some brisk compositions like in Mayamalagola, Huva Taruvara Manege Hulla Taruva Avve Lakumiramana Ivagillagaruva. So he will say new type, no? First opening itself, so many, one Sangati which is so brisk. Manege Ullataruva. It's not a usual beginning. Then there are so many Satyavantarigidu Kalavalla Dushta Janarigidu Subhiksha Kala. The timeless composition by Purandaradasa, where he says, this is not the time for honest people, for good people. This is the time when wicked, evil people prosper. So it is written 600 years ago, and that is in Bhairavi. So there are some of the popular songs. In fact, Balamuralikrishna sir, since he never left a record, this song is tuned by me. Like that, there are many people who are not big Balamurali fans who sing songs tuned by him without knowing that he has set to tune. For example, this is very popular in Natakuranji. Alli nodalu Rama, illi nodalu Rama, yellelli nodidaralli Sri Rama. Purandaradasa. So here one secret is that Balamuralikrishna sir had a long standing contract with a recording company called Sangeeta. And Sangeeta was owned by a family who were Kannadigas. So in English we say the person who pays the bill decides the menu. So Sangeeta, since they were very big into Purandaradasa, they assigned dozens and dozens and dozens of Purandaradasa songs to Balamuralikrishna sir. They would give him the lyrics, explain the meaning. He would set them to tune and sing it. That is one of the reasons why so many Purandaradasa recordings flooded the market, I think from late 70s or 80s onwards. And Balamuralikrishna sir, he's a Telugu person. So a non-Kannadiga had, later I think Vidya Bhushana, many others came. But at that time, Balamuralikrishna sir had recorded more Kannada songs than anybody else, even from Karnataka. So that is about Purandaradasa. If we talk about Sangeeta Pitamaha, Purandaradasa, obviously we have to talk about Pada Kavita Pitamaha, Talapaka Annamacharya. Annamacharya compositions were lost for several centuries. They were retrieved during the middle part of the 20th century, and Dr. Balamuralikrishna sir was one of the first to tune a set of Annamacharya compositions. Later, many others did. And the first Annamacharya song he set to tune was in Bihag. Narayanate namo namo Narada sannuta namo namo Murahara Nagadhara Mukunda Madhava Murahara Nagadhara Mukunda Madhava Garuda Gamana Pankajanabha Parama Purusha Bhava Bandha Vimochana Naramruga Sharira Namo Namo Narayanate Namo Namo. So this again one composition which or Brahma Kadigina Padamu Brahma Mutane Ni Padamu. This is again, these two are very popular among people who are not Balamurali fans also, who don't know that he tuned them. So here also see Padamu Pada, the Swaraksharam comes. So seamlessly it comes that we don't even notice that it's a Swaraksharam. About Annamacharya, another example, how he used the two Rishabhams in the raga Asaveri. So Asaveri has Zari Bigri Ma Pada Sa Pada Bama Ma Pa Mari Ga Re, small re sa, so Zari Ma Ga Re sa. This extraordinary use of the two Rishabhams, but giving the meaning of the song also. Maya Mohamu Manaditi. The worldly temptations will not leave. Manaditi. What to do? So he puts the blame squarely not on himself but on Sri Achyuta or Venkatesha, several synonyms for the same God. It's all God's will, not my fault, like that he says. Ma, even the first syllable ma is ma in Sahityam and Swaram also. Maya mohamu manadidi Sri Achyutani. Say again, ni also comes. Chitame kaladi. That's all, Pallavi. Enta velugunaku ante chikati. Enta velugunaku. It's all two sides of everything. Enta velugunaku ante chikati. As much light there is, it will cast shadows. Enta sampadaku anta apada. The more wealth you have, the more problems you have. Antata aushadham apatyamunaku sari. If you take a medicine, for that to be effective, there are some pathyam, the restrictions you have to follow. Vinte migilenu vesate galad. The whole thing is a vinta, a mystery, and I don't know how it works. But again, antata aushadham apathyamunu sari, the swaraksharam will be sari also. Enta velugunaku ante chikati. Yenta sampadaku antapada antata aushadhamapathyamunu sari vinte migilenu vesate kaladi mayamohamu manadidi chesina kuliki jitamunaku sari. The chesina kuliki jitamunaku. According to the amount of work you do, you get returns. Pusina karma bhogamuse. Whatever your karma is, you get to enjoy the results. Vasula janmamu vadi maranamu sari. As long as we are born, we will die for sure. But despite knowing that we will die, asala migilina talape kaladi. Our desires never leave us. We want this, we want that, even though we know we are going to die. So that again, see how the two rishabhams, the play of the two rees, how he uses. Chesina kuliki jitamunaku sari pusina kalma bhogamu sari vasula janmamu vadi maranamu sari asala migilina talape kaladi mayamu. So this is one extraordinary Asaveri tune for an Annamacharya song. Another one in Vasanta, he says ihame gani, whether in this world, ikka parame gani, or in the next world, bahulamai hari ni pai bhakte chalu. The great Hari Vishnu, ni pai bhakti, the devotion to you chalu, saku, that's all I want. And Vasanta, normally we have Samagamada Nisa Nida Nida Maga. This is the normal Paramapurusha Jagadishara or Sita Mamayama or Ramachandram Bhavayam. So Gamada Nisa Nida Nida Maga. Here he uses the Dhaivatam plane, which gives a different feel. Ihame gani ika parame gani bahulamai harini pai bhakte chalu. It stops like that. Yendu janinchina neme yetsota nunna nemi. Where I am born doesn't matter. Where I stay, it doesn't matter. Kanduva nidasyamu kaligite chalu. Kanduva nidasyamu kaligite. I want devotion to you. That is enough. And Kanduva Nidasyam, Nida is Swaraksharam also. Andi Swargame Gani, Ala Narakame Gani. Whether I go to heaven or whether I go to hell, even that doesn't make any difference. Andapuni namamuna kabute chalu. The beautiful name of yours, that should always be there with me. That's all. So like that, or Dorayaina chalu, katu tuchhapu bantaina chalu. Whether I'm a king or I'm just a sevaka, I'm just a servant, it doesn't matter. Karagi ninnu talancha kaligite chalu. Dorayaina chalu, katu tuchhapu bantaina chalu. So yalu sa niga. What a vivid kind of tune. Karagi ninnu talancha kaligite chalu. Parulu mechina melu, pammidu shinchina melu. Parulu mechina melu. Whether others praise me or they criticize me, doesn't matter. Parulu mechina melu, pammidu shinchina melu. Harini seva parudau te salu. So Harini rini, again Swarakshara. So very vivid and different kind of picture of Vasanta. And then another example, even just actually one can give a 2-hour, 3-hour lecture about Balamuralikrishna's tuning of any of these one composer, just a Namacharya, just Bhadrachal Ramadas, like that. So much he has done. Let's take a raga. At this I have to touch on something else also. Let's take a raga like Neelambari. Neelambari, generally people use it for a lullaby or putting people to sleep. So one composer about whom I don't know anything other than 2 or 3 compositions I have heard, sung by Balamurali sir, which he had tuned beautifully. It's a Kannada composer called Timmappa Dasaru. Timmappa Tirumalayappa Dasa, Venkatesha's Dasa. So beautifully he has sung one song by Timmappa Dasaru in Neelambari. This is just to give you an idea. The same Neelambari, 2 avatarams which come in the hands of the same composer. It's a beautiful, magnificent composition where you can, like Kshirasagara Shayana in Devagandhari, if you sing it properly, visually you can imagine Lord Vishnu lying on Ananta. That same feel is there. Yoga Nidreya Madutihanu Yoga Nidreya Madutihanu Kshirasagara Mathyadi Bhogi Shayananu Yoga Nidreya Maduti Hanu. This is, of course, the tune is a normal Neelambari tune, but it brings out the spirit of the lyrics so beautifully. And that same Neelambari, Annamacharya composed an angry song. He was saying, which happens, of course, even now in most political situations we find the same thing happening, that the same few people who are favored by those in power, they are given more and more and more and more, while the rest of us are ignored. That same sentiment, if we feel angry or unhappy about our current situation, we can take solace from the fact that it was like that even 600 years ago. So Annamacharya says, తెలియ చీకటికి దీపమెత్తగా పెద్ద వెలుగులో పలికి వెలుగేలా. He says, when there is darkness, you need a lamp. But when it is already light, you give one lamp. What is the purpose? So he is angry with Venkatesha for going on showering blessings on the same people whom he has already blessed generously and ignoring others. So for that, we can't normally imagine a very tender, sweet, melodious, melting kind of raga like Neelambari with angry. You can imagine something like Athana. That feeling we can imagine with lyrics like this. But Neelambari, Balamurali says, the same man who made Yoga Nidraya Madutihanu, that Balamuralikrishna, Teliya Chikatiki. So we don't imagine it, Neelambari with that kind of, hey, what is this feeling, no? Teliya Chikatiki Deepamettaga Pedda Velugulo Paliki Velugela Arayana Pannuniki Abhayamidavalegaka Iravaina Sukhini Gavanela వరుతంబోయటువాని వడితీయవలెగాక వరుతంబోయటువాని వడితీయవలెగాక దదివాని దివియగతానేలా తెలియచీక. సో గమపదనిద తెలియచ. It is so fresh and so unexpected. I used to ask him how these ideas come. So he says just the lyrics inspire the tune, and he would say there is one tradition of taking an existing Tyagaraja tune and putting it on some fresh lyrics. So he says some people accuse him that his compositions are too light. They don't feel it's like Bhairavi Balagopalam or Shankarabharanam Swararaga Sutharasa. So his point was that, or Sri Krishna Bhajamanasa, he says Sri Krishna Bhajamanasa is already there, or Sakani Raja Margamu is already there. So when it is already there, original by Sri Tyagaraja or Dikshitar, why should I compose one more song just like Swararaga Sutha or Sri Krishna Bhajamanasa or Sakani Raja Margamu? So he says we should do justice keeping in mind the originality, the individuality, the freshness of these composers, and not what Balamurali sir used to say was like, what is the point using borrowed sangatis? They are borrowed sangatis from other composers. So why take a Purandaradasa song and kind of suffocate it with Dikshitar or Tyagaraja tune? So give the tune for these lyrics. Same with Annamacharya. So Annamacharya again, many songs are there. So I don't want to spend the whole time talking, but it's difficult to ignore also. Yeah, there's one composition which in two lines describes the entire Dasavataram. This is in Harikamboji. So Harikamboji also normally Dinamani Vamsatilaka Lavanya. So the songs like that are very heavy and grand. We normally don't imagine Harikamboji like a very sweet. So here he has tuned it in a very sweet and very beautiful manner. Inderiki apayam bulichu che. The entire composition is about the hand of Lord Vishnu, which gives asylum to everybody. Inderiki apayam bulichu che. కందువలగు మంచి బంగారు చేయి ఇందరికి అభయంబులిచ్చు చేయి వెలలేని వేదములు వెదకితే చిన చేయి చిలుకు గోబలి క్రిందు చేర్చు చేయి కలిగియగు భూకాంత కౌగిలించిన చేయి వలనైన కొనగోళ వారి చేయి ఇందరికి అభయం బులిచ్చు చేయి. Like that. This is Annamacharya. Speaking about Annamacharya, there is one composition which has become very popular and people wrongly attribute it to Annamacharya, while it is actually a composition by one of his two children. So he had two children called Pedda Tirumalacharya and Chinna Tirumalacharya, the big Tirumalacharya and small Tirumalacharya. So this is by Pedda Tirumalacharya. Like Annamacharya, his mind was also focused on Lord Sri Venkateswara of Tirupati. This is just like Maya Mohamu Manadidi, where it's not my fault, it's all God's will. Same idea is given here also in Reva Gupti. Yekkadi manusha janmam bettina phalame munnadi nikkabu ninne nammiti chittam bikamu ni chittam bikanu Maravanu aharambunu maravanu samsara sukhamu. I don't forget to eat, I don't forget worldly pleasures. Maravanu aharambunu maravanu samsara sukhamu maravanu indriya bhogamu. I don't forget the pleasures of the senses, indriya bhogamu. Madhava ni maya, that is Madhava ni maya. It's the illusion created by you, Madhava, not my fault. Then Marachada Sujnanambunu, I forget Sujnanam, high level knowledge. Marachada Tattva Rahasyamu, I forget the secrets of the Tattvas. I even forget my Guru and God. Marachada Kurubunu Daivamu Madhavani Maya. Yekkadi manusha janma. So this Balamurali sir has told me, he has actually heard somebody sing it with the tune of Manasu Swadhinam. So Yekkadi manusha jan, like it's, I see, Akshaya Linga. It's a beautiful song, but not for Ekkadi ma. Then no shaj, it doesn't make any sense. Yekkadi manusha janmam bettina phalame munnad. So as a Malayali who didn't know and who still doesn't know Telugu properly, somehow the spirit of the composition got conveyed to me because of the tune. The same way giving the wrong tune can destroy the spirit of the composition, and it's like building a stone wall between the composer and us. While the right tune will create a conduit between the mind of the composer, the person who tuned, the person who is singing, the person who is listening also, and to all the way to God. It's a unbroken kind of circuit. That is a good thing when we set to tune lyrics aptly. So one of the most popular compositions of all time, rendered by Balamuralikrishna sir, was also set to tune by him. Ramarasam. I don't have to sing this because all of you know this. This was tuned by earlier people used to sing it in Yamuna Kalyani. He changed it to Ahir Bhairav. But there are other compositions by Sadasiva Brahmendra which he has set to tune, again very very beautifully. There's one in Kamas which I have heard in Madhuvanti also, sung by others. Sarvam Brahmamayam Re Re Sarvam Brahmamayam. So look at the play of the two nishadam. Sarvam Brahmamayam. re re sarvam brahmamayam kim vachaniyam kimavachaniyam kim racaniyam kimaracaniyam. So niyam, so exquisite that tune. Kim bhajaniyam kim abhajaniyam kim pathaniyam kim apathaniyam sarvam brahmamayam re re sarvam brahmamayam sarvam brahmamayam. So this is Sadasiva Brahmendra. Again, Smaravaram varam chetaka Smarananda Kumaram. This is again, these used to be very popular in 1950s, 60s, 70s at that time. These days I haven't heard them very often. Then he was always very playful, very mischievous, very naughty also. So one naughty thing which he did was that he took a raga like Hamsadhani, which does not have Madhyamam. So a song, he tuned it in Hamsadhani, which does not have Madhyamam, and sang it in Madhyama Shruti. So ma ne re ga sa ne sa ne pa ga pa ne re ga pa re ga ne re sa. So pushpa sugandha sumalaya samire pavana muni jana. So again this you na na na, but it has a touch of Madhyamam. So we can't call it pure Hamsadhani. So I personally call it Hamsadhani based. In Hindustani they have this super weapon called Misra. The moment you add Misra as a prefix, Misra Pilu, Misra Pahadi, Misra Sivaranjani, Misra Mand, then you can do anything. So it gives you the license to add any note you like. So here either we can call it Misra Hamsadhani or you can call it Hamsadhani based. Pavana Muni Jana Yamuna Tire Gayati Gayati Vanamali Madhuram Gayati Vanamali Madhuram Gayati Vanamali. So it's such a beautiful melody for those lyrics. That's all. And putting Madhyama Shruti, I remember his very, very astute use of Madhyama Shruti, because the same thing we sing in Samashruti, when we sing it in Madhyama Shruti, it acquires a new kind of sheen. So he sang an Annamacharya song, Kumma Tana Mutyala Kungujara Bakattu Gumarim Puchute Chukonnadi Valapu Gumarim Puchute Chukonnadi Oyaramuna Vibhuni Orapu Kanugoni Repa Muyane Rakamaha Muripe Munanu Kayampu Gutamiki Kalu Trauvuchunata Kayampu Gutamiki కాలు త్రవ్వుచున్నంత కొయ్యతనమున తెచ్చుకొనది. వలపు. So this is Yadukula Kamboji, but it takes such a different flavor. Even Purandaradasa, Anugalavu chinte jeevake manavu seranganolu metsuvattanaka Anugalavu chinte jeevake manavu. So this is Abhogi. But Abhogi gets a totally different color when we sing it in Madhyama Shruti. Even Balamurali's own compositions, there is one in, I won't tell the ragam now, you can listen. Tunai neye yendrum tunai neye Kumara என் வினை தீர்த்து அருள்வாயே முருக என்றும் துணை நீயே குமர. So this is Charukesi. But normally we Adamodigala Ramaya or Kripaya Palaya Shaure. This is the flavor. But Agama Daba Daba Magama Sagama Gare Sadane Re Zani Sari Gare Sadane. So it's a very, very, very different feeling for the same notes of Charukesi. So the Madhyama Shruti is again one whole department what this man has done with Madhyama Shruti. Another one of the very great legacies that Balamurali sir has left us is the tunes he gave for Bhadrachala Ramadasa compositions. Here there are some, I'll give you an example, where there was an original tune which people used to sing in the bhajana sampradaya, like Eti rogananu dayajo chadavo inavam sotama rama Natarama Bhavasagarami Nalita Kshana Rama. So he would take a tune like that and just refine it a little bit. And in this particular case, he's made it half speed. Eti Rugananu Dayajo Chedavu Inavam Shotama Rama Natarama Bhavasakarami Nalitna Kshana Rama. So it's so emotional, so soulful and beautiful. So this is one Bhadrachala Ramadasa, again it's one ocean of Ramadasa songs he set to music. In Gharara Priya, Sri Ramani Nama Me Miruchira, O Ramani Nama Enta Ruchira, about the how sweet and tasty the Namam, the name of Sri Rama is. Kariraja Prahlada Dharanija Vibhishanudu Gachinani Nama Menta Ruchira Kadali Khajuradi Bhalamulaka Dhikamu Patita Pavana Nama Me Miruchira Patita Pavana Nama Me Miruchira. Oh, so tasty. That feeling comes. This is one song. Of course, many of them or on Sri Rama. And same Yadugala Kamboji, where earlier Kumma Tana Mutyalakum Gujaragabak. That Yadugala Kamboji, here is a composition just like the Neelambari, two colors. He's saying Ayyayyo, Abbabba, Annanna kind of expressions in the composition. Pahimam Sri Ramayante Palukavaitivi Ni Snehamettida Ni Cheppa Oh ho 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 Pahimam Sri Ramayante. What is the use? No, like that he's in a vexed mode, as Balamurali sir says. So that is one. Then there is a Surya Kantam, very, very beautiful. Garuda Gamana Rara Nanuni Karuna Nelukora Parama Purushaye Verapulekani Marugu Juchitini Aramaraseya Kukaruda Gamana Rara Nanuni Karuna Nelukora. There is one. Then another one which became a big hit among my few fans. Sri Rama Namam Maruvam Maruvam Siddhamu Yamunaku Veruvam Veruvam Govindu Nevela Golutam Golutam Devuni Gunamulu Dalutam Dalutam Sri Rama Namam Maruvam Maruvam Siddhamu Yamunaku Veruvam Veruvam. That is another one. Like that it goes on and on. That is a few just small glimpses of what he did with Bhadrasala Ramadasa. And of course, how could we forget Paluke Bangaramayena Kodandapani Paluke Bangaramayena. That is also, see, so many people sing that and they don't remember that actually Balamurali sir, again like A Tirugandano, we don't know whether it is a absolutely fresh tune or it was kind of sung in that tune. Once he told me he went to a place called Kammam, which had a lot to do with the Bhadrasala Ramadasa's life, and he was staying in a government guest house and he heard some people cutting grass outside and they were singing a bhajan type song which attracted him a lot. He went and heard them sing and discovered that it's a Ramadasa song. So instead of trying to smash it up into Todi or Bhairavi or Dhanyasi or something, he preserved the tune as it is, which is a folk tune. See, that's why I started this whole lecture with Prayaga Rangadasa, who is so good in folk tunes which are not raga based. So here Balamurali sir, though he was such a master technically speaking, whether it's rhythm or Shruti Bhedam, so many technical things he is so accomplished, yet he would never change the charm, ruin the charm of a small folk song, and he would leave it like that. So, Emira Rama Navalla Neram. What have I done? What mistake have I done, Rama? Emira Rama Navalla Neram. Emira Rama. So this Emira Rama Navalla Neram Emira Rama. It goes like then. Takita taka dhimi takita taka Emira Rama Ilagu Kashtavu Emira Rama Ilagu Kashtavu Nimahi Mona Prarabdhamu. Then pause. We can imagine somebody like the great Kishore Kumar filling up the pause with one emotional sound. So, Nimahi Mona Prarabdhamu. High. One high we can imagine there. So that feel, no? The feel is what is so, it is in front. Everything else, grammar, everything else comes behind. So talking about folk songs, he has tuned a whole bunch of compositions in the folk idiom. There was a composer called Yadla Ramadasa. Very few of his compositions are available, but very rich in content in the lyrics. Anda Pinda Brahmanda Vicharana Panditulaku Eruka Tindi Potulai Tirigedi Sutta Pandalake Meruka. See, this, if you want, you can call it Sankaraparanam, but it's not exactly Sankara. It's just a folk tune. Then there was a composer called Mahadeva Shambho. So his one composition which kind of swept through Andhra Pradesh at that time was Yemi Setura Linga Yemi Setura Ganga Udakamu Techiniku Linga Pujalu Chetamante Ganga Nunna Chapakappa Yengilantunna Dilinga Mahanubhava Madeva Shambho Malingamurti Yemi Seturalinga Yemi Setura. This has no ragam at all. It's just a tune for the lyrics. There was another great, we know about Bhadrasara Ramadasa, but many people don't know about Mallekonda Ramadasa. Mallekonda Ramadasa was probably around, he lived around the same time. I also don't know much about him. But he's written several very philosophical and beautiful compositions. Again, Balamurali sir has tuned. Again, this is the tune for the lyrics. We can't really call it any ragam. Mayalokamuna mamatalu chandaga Mayanu vidave o manasa Nyayamu viduvaka Anyayamu vidi Guru chayanu Gansave o manasa. It's so beautiful. It is not exactly Kuranji, not Shankaraparanam, but just like honey, it's dripping with melody. Speaking about Mallekonda Ramadasa, he has composed another very philosophical, beautiful composition which Balamurali sir has tuned in Sindhu Bhairavi. It says, God's will, who knows? Nobody knows and nobody can tell. Ishwarajñayemo teliyadu adi Yavarerugaru Ishwarajña Shashvata Ishwaryamichi Sada Nannu Brochuno Sakala Bathalanu Petti Sakala Bathalanu Petti Sankata Parachuchuno Parameshwarajña Yemo Teliyadu Adi Yavarerugaru Ishwarajña. This is also Mallekonda Ramadasa. All these in Vijayawada, All India Radio, Balamurali sir used to work for a long time, and they had this morning devotional program called Bhakti Ranjani, and many of these compositions were set up for the Bhakti Ranjani program. People in Andhra who are above 70-80 years old, they get so moved even now when they hear these songs. Maharaja Swadhitirnal compositions also, Balamurali sir has not many, but he has tuned a few, some of which are very attractive. Normally we listen to a Vivadi Ragam like Vagathishwari. So Vagathishwari, we think immediately, obviously, of Paramatmudu velige. That is the feeling we immediately get. In a raga like Vagathesari, Balamurali sir has tuned a composition by Maharaja Swadhitirunal, which is so upbeat and sweet. In fact, many people can join together and sing it like a bhajan. Kamala Nayana Jagadishwara Kamala Kamukamam Paripahi Vibho. Kamala Nayana Jagadishwara Kamala Kamukamam Paripahi Vibho. Paripahi Vibho, Paripahi Vibho, Paripahi Vibho, Paripahi Vibho. Chamikar Ghana Garva Harana Chana Charuvasana Paripahi Vibho. Chamikar Ghana Garva Harana Chana Charuvasana Paripahi Vibho. Paripahi Vibho, Paripahi Vibho. Samaja parivritatapasamana jalajasana nota paripahi vibho. Like that. Same, it goes on like that. It's very, very beautiful. Many songs I sang like Pushpa Sugandha Sumalaya Samir. We can call it light music, Lalita Sangeetam. But for those of you who may wonder, has he never composed anything heavy, only light? No, he has composed, as I said earlier, when there is already Etavanara or Chakani Raja Margama, we don't need one more song exactly like that. But he has composed some really heavy tunes also. Even Maharaja Swadhitirunal, there's one Saveri song. Pahi Sarasanabhamam Anisham. Pahi Sarasanabha, Pahi Sarasanabhama Nisham. Dehi me tava bhaktim Dinarakshaka Shaure Vahini Sanandini Vadanambuja Madhukara Vahi Sarasa Nabhamamanisham. Pure vegetarian, no onion, no garlic, Saveri. So that is, and then Maharaja Swadhitirunal, two of his Hindustani bhajans Balamurali sir used to sing even before I was born. Both are in Madhyama Shruti. One is in Mishra Pahadi. Aaj aaye Sham Mohan Ras Mandal Khelna. Aaj aaye Sham Mohan. So Pahadi, 1950s, this gentleman had already used. There's another one which, like some of the other folk songs, the raga is not clearly defined. So I joke about that and I call it Mishra Pilu, which is more Mishra than Pilu. It goes like this. Jamuna kinare pyare kadam tar mohana Basuri bajave, Basuri bajave, Saghi kunja bhavana me Jamuna kinare pyare kadam tare mohana basuri bajave. Both are describing the Ras Leela of Lord Sri Krishna. Singing these two Hindustani bhajans reminded me is another very, very, very beautiful bhajan by Goswami Tulasidas. Tulasidas, most of us have heard Sri Ramachandra Kripalu Bhajaman. We can imagine as the same person who composed that song, who has composed this song. There's a story that when I speak about Jamuna Kinare, I just remembered the whole process of national integration, because Jamuna Kinare was a Hindi composition written by Maharaja Swati Tirunal from Kerala, who was a Malayali. So a Malayali man writes a Hindi composition that was set to tune by Telugu Balamuralikrishna, who was living in Madras in Tamil Nadu, and it won the national award. So it is a classic example of national integration. While Tulasidas was a great devotee of Lord Sri Rama, and his contemporary Surdas was a great devotee of Lord Krishna. So when the two met, each of them accused the other person, how come you have made songs only on Krishna? And he says, how come you have made songs only on Rama? So to please each other, each of them made a few songs about the other person's hero. So the Rama devotee Tulasidas made this very, very beautiful composition on Lord Krishna. So Balamurali sir tuned it in something like Chhaya Nat, which is a Hindustani raga. But since it didn't exist in Carnatic music, he took a word from the lyric of the song. The word is Vallabhi, and he called the raga Vallabhi. It goes little like this. Ga ma re pa pa re ma da da pa pa re re ga ma pa ma ga re sa pasane re ga ma pa re ne re sa. Gopala Gokul Vallabhi Priya Gopa Gosutta Vallabham Gopala Gokul Vallabhi Priya Gopa Gosutta Vallabham Charanarvindamaham Bhaje Bhajaniya Suramuni Dullabham Gopala Gokula Vallabhi Priya Gopa Gosutta Vallabham. So beautiful. And we all know Krishnani Begane Baro, but this has a different flavor. And a Misra Chaputalam melodious tune again reminds me Maharaja Swati Tirunal, one composition. It is there in the list of old compositions. The name of the raga is given as Deshakshi. So Deshakshi, grammatically speaking, is very simple. It is just like Bilahari with small nishadam instead of big nishadam. So nga pada sa 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 ni da va da sa pada pa da pa magare re ga pada sa ri ga sa da. Bilahari ga pada sa ni da pa da pa magare re sa ni da sa. That is all. But it is not just the sa ni da. The stress is on ni and ma. And when we stress the nishadam and madhyamam, that complete color changes. Instead of ga pa da sa ni da, ga pa da sa ni da pa, pa da ma ga re ga sa re ni da sa, sa re si ruha nabha mudaram kalaye charana vinata jana vibudha salam devam sarasiruha nabha mudaram kalaye. See how flowing the melody is. So that is why what is grammatically something is totally different from the same thing aesthetically what it is. Maharaja Swadhitirunal's Tillana, very famous Tillana in Dhanasri, that was set to tune by Lalgudi Jayaraman. There are few other Tillanas with only jatis given. There is no sahityam. Apparently sahityam for Tillanas was something which came later. So I gave one of these, the jatis of one Tillana. It was written Bhopalam. So Balamurali sir, we can talk for the whole day about Balamurali sir, what he has done with Tillanas. But Tillana, you just forget completely Balamurali Tillanas which are like this. And he made a Tillana from the jatis available by Maharaja Swadhitirunal in the ragam Bhopalam. So normally Bhopalam is a kind of dark ragam which uses Ri, Ga, Dha, all minor notes, the flat notes. Still it shines brightly. So rather than the Tillana, I'll give you just 2 lines of the Sahityam which he added. The Tillana, tam tanam tadani udani tatanum tanum tanum tanum, it goes like that. But the Sahityam, just 2 lines, the poetry of the man, he brought both Padmanabha and Murali in the Sahityam and the Raga Mudra Bhopala. So, Padmaraga Mani Mala Lankruta Padmanabham Bhopalam Vibhum Parinata Murali Vadana Lolana Niratam Sada Dehi Mudam Shubham. This is so beautiful. I was completely thrilled when he sang this, and how I discovered the Gopala Gokula Vallabhi, which he used to sing many years ago, and we had stopped singing that. So I requested him, there's the same Vallabhi, can you tune a Swadhitirunal Kriti? Because I wanted to sing it in the Navaratri festival where we can sing only Swati Kritis. So he took a very beautiful Hindustani bhajan on goddess Saraswati, and Gopala Gokula Jaya Jaya Devi Jaya Jaya Saraswati Maye Jai Bhavani Jai Shalvani Jaya Tribhuvana Sukhadayi. This is kind of from that tune, Jai Jai Devi. Actually, with each of these composers, Purandradasa, Annamacharya, Bhadrachal Ramadasa, Sadasiva Brahmendra, Swadhitirunal, I have given just tiniest glimpses of the huge amount of work he has done. But even composers, there are so many. Subramanya Bharatiyar, Mahakavi Subramanya Bharatiyar, he's tuned so many songs. Jayadeva, almost all his Ashtapatis he's tuned. Like that, it just goes on, and one or even several sessions like this would not be enough. But I'll just conclude with a few glimpses of one of my pet composers whose compositions Balamurali sir has set to tune in an unparalleled way. very, very, very attractive. This also, just like Prayagaranga compositions, though most of them are in Telugu, people who don't know Telugu also, they just feel very happy to listen to this. So this is one which is tuned in a very folk type version of Kharara Pre. It is a raga based song. Chandama manu jochi vaddama sadananda jochi vaddama Chandama manu jochi vaddama sadananda jochi vaddama Chandama manu jochi vaddama తల్లడించే తామసులను వెళ్ళవేసి వేవేగ ఉళ్ళు మరచి తారకమున తెల్లవారే దనకమనము చందమామ జోచి వద్దామా సదానంద జోచి వద్దామా Chandama manujochi vattama. So the composer is Kaivara Amara Narayana. He's called Yogi Narayana also. His location is around 2 hours away from Bangalore, a place called Kaivara. He was a great jnani. In fact, he's written many works predicting the future also. He's composed songs in Sanskrit, in Telugu, in Kannada, and in Manipravalam, which is a mix of Telugu and Kannada. I'll give you one more example, which is again the classic example of Balamuralikrishna's something based. So this is not Shankarabharanam, but it is Shankarabharanam based, and it just melts the heart like very few other compositions do. Sri Krishna Namamantra ruchi siddhinchutte naku ennatiku Sri Krishna yanu namamantra ruchi siddhinchutte nakenatiko Sri Guru Padabjambulu Madilo Stiramuga nilichedennatiko. So it just lies like that. No? So there is Sri Krishna, heart melting Sri Krishna, Then one of the songs which has kind of gone viral online, Balamuralikrishna had cut a disc. At that time there was no disc, it was a cassette, which had a very catchy background music. It went like this: ting 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 ting, something like that. A little different, but I found this background music very attractive. So I changed the tune just a little bit, and sang it as swarams. Sagga maga sagga maga sagga maga re sa ni pari mari niri pamaga re sa. Sri Rama dhinak di Sri Rama ni namamu jihva kuruchiga unnadi. Sri Rama ni namamu jihva kuruchiga unnadi. Eppudu emmela manasu maruvakunnade. Sri Rama ni namamu jihva kuruchiga unnadi. Sagga maga sag, like that. So this again, if you just hear for 1 second, you might feel it's Shankarabharanam. It's not Shankarabharanam, because it has many other inflections which don't come in Shankarabharanam at all. But like Balamuralikrishna always used to say, it is the tune for these lyrics. That's all. Yeah, so I guess that brings us to the end of this very small presentation with more glimpses than anything else. I'm very happy to have shared these thoughts with you. And Sri Hebbar, we had a very long and fruitful and wonderful telephone conversation, and we discovered that we have the same and very similar views about tuning compositions, and he himself is a great example of that. Balamurali sir, though, I mean, now I covered so many composers, but for almost every single one of Balamurali sir's public concerts, it would end, even after Tilana, it would end with Bhadrachala Ramadasa, who had a special place in his heart. So I'll finish with one line of the typical Mangalam. Ramadasaya mrudula hrudaya kamalavasaya Swami Bhadragirivaraya sarva mangalam Ramachandraya Janakaraja Jamanoharaya Mamakabhishtadaya Mahita Mangalam Mahita Mangalam Mahita Mangalam Mahita Mangalam.
Namaskaram. You have heard Ashwati Tirunal Prince Rama Varma talking about tuning music to different composers' compositions by Dr M Balamuralikrishna. A great singer, a great composer, a big tunesmith, Vaggayakara, mridangist, viola player, entrepreneur, and above all, a music maker of our times, Dr. M. Balamuralikrishna. It is very difficult to hold him for 1.5 hours, but Prince Rama Varma has made it a wonderful exposition of tuning of music to different composers' compositions in this talk. He has used extensive examples from Purandaradasa, Annamacharya, Sadashiva Brahmendra, Bhadrachala Ramadasa, Yadla Ramadasa, Malekonda Ramadasa, Swati Tirunal Maharaja, Tulsidas, Jayadeva, Kaivara, all such, some 10 composers' compositions were exposed by Sri Ramavarma ji, along with the meaning, and he has tried to give us a clear understanding as how Dr. M. Balamuralikrishna understood the real bhava of the lyric. And he was a real tunesmith to do the best out of the lyric. It was not just merely putting the swaras or the phrases or raga over it. It was not imposing on the lyric, but it itself emerged. The raga or the phrases or the tune emerged out of the compositions. For example, he was just telling us how Asaviri, Maya Mohamuna, and Vasanta, Ihamegani, Telia Chikatiki, and Nilambari Yoganidreya of Timapadasaru. It was wonderful to listen to it. And it compelled me to listen to the YouTube and go to listen to Dr. M. Balamuralikrishna once again and see the beauty of the tuning of these compositions. Sarvam Brahmamayam. I had heard it from Balamuralikrishna sir in the concert, live concert, once upon a time. But once Prince Rama Varma once again raised it as how Kamach has been just been tuned, it was very much, it compelled me very much. And once again I heard it. Now I was ecstatic to listen to that great tuning technique of Dr. M Balamuralikrishna and his way of presenting it. Dr. M Balamuralikrishna will never make a casualty for the lyrics. For example, Ekkadi Manusha Janmamu in Regupti or so, it will never be blend to heavy raga like Shankarabharanam. Ma, Nusha will not be severed and will not be killed or destroyed. Prince Rama Varma has very ably talked about these things in his entire talk. The Pushpa Gandha Sumalaya Samire Gayati Vanamali. That Hamsadwani Madhyamashruti, I never knew that. I never clicked. There was no time for me to think about it. But presentation of Prince Rama Varma has made us to think and rethink about Balamurali's capacities to hold the Kriti in a beautiful manner. Goswami Tulsidas Vallabhi was a revelation. And the secret behind that has been well said by Prince Rama Varma. Prince Rama Varma ji has given us the real secret of Balamuralikrishna's tuning techniques. He has taken that seed from his own grandfather, Ranga Sharma, who wrote Prayaga Ranga Dasa as his Ankita, which were very much prevalent in the Bhajana Sampradaya near Rajamundri and other places. Some 10 compositions Prince Rama Varma ji has explained to us as how Ranga Sharma's compositions were tuned by Balamurali and got exposed to the public. His Ramududbhavinchi, Yadukula Kamboji, Ikshvaku Tilaka, they are all revelations in the field of these compositions. And it has a seed in Ranga Sharma's compositions Prince Rama Varma has revealed. This is wonderful. And that folk tuning or holding the notes plain and giving a soothing effect to our ears. Perhaps Balamurali did it, deviating from the mainstream of Carnatic music, which dwells more on gamakas and sometimes twists and swirls and winds, sometimes very undigestible. But Prince Rama Varma ji has really came out so soothing, soft spoken, but firm about his opinion about Balamuralikrishna's tuning capacities. It's a wonderful talk. Perhaps you have all enjoyed. On behalf of Ranjani Memorial Trust, as a president of that trust, charity trust, I thank him profusely for a beautiful talk which has made us to open our eyes once again to look into Balamuralikrishna's tuning techniques. Namaskaram.